Hello, my spooky friends. I'm John, your host of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. The great spooky guests continue, and I have a Midwesterner with me today, which I love. On the podcast, I have Jacki from Spoon River Paranormal. She is a paranormal researcher, among other things, and a writer, I just found out. Welcome, Jacki.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here today.
I'm excited to have you because, like, we're talking off air, my spooky friends, because we have people listening to us from all over the country, including California. Jacki is one of my number one places people listen to the podcast, which, by the way, just really quickly, I'm sure Jacki and I agree. I hope everyone can be safe, and I hope everyone is getting through this terrible tragedy with the fires and everything. So maybe in some small way, listen to my podcast and having a laugh or two might take away some of that tragedy. If I can do that, if I can make you laugh, and Jacki and I can give you a spooky story, we hope we don't keep you up at night. But, well, I guess that's part of the podcast.
Right now, that'll keep them up. So my heart goes out to you, California.
Yeah. So if you do, at least you're a little spooky. So we'll have some fun with that. So, Jacki, let's get right into it, shall we? Yes. Tell me about your first paranormal experience, how old you were, and kind of how did it affect you? Because you said you're interested in the paranormal. So let's talk about that.
Okay. So my very first paranormal experience, I was really young. So I've pretty much been interested in the paranormal my entire life. And it all started when my grandparents bought this apple orchard outside of Lewistown, Illinois. Ooh. So this apple orchard is pretty much across the highway from this Native American museum. And my grandparents' apple orchard was built like pretty much right on top of this Native American village. A lot of it's highlighted over at the museum. They had a lot of artifacts, and there were some things going on with the museum that got them in trouble with tribal council. I'm just going to put that out there. But when I was little, I remember going into my grandparents' basement. It was shortly after they moved. They bought the apple orchard in 1988. I was about 3 years old, 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And I went into the basement because I was looking for some toys or something like that.
Not the basement.
It was the basement. It was a nice basement, though. I mean, it had it was a living space type basement, so it wasn't anything scary.
I gotcha.
I didn't really think anything of it. I went down there to look for some toys, and I went into the the furnace room where they pretty much had all the board games stacked up and some toys were in there. And as soon as I walked in there and rounded the corner, there was a Native American man just like right there. And he was just as solid as you and I. And I somehow ended up over there on his lap, and he was telling me something very sternly, and I didn't understand what he was saying because it was in another language. But I remember telling my grandparents, and it was on my dad's side of the family, and my dad, and nobody believed me, and they were just like, "Oh, Jacki, you and your stories," and I've had experiences most of my life, and on that side of the family, they never believed me. They were really religious, and it was always kind of shoved to the side. But on my mother's side of the family, where things like that are more prevalent, I had an outlet to kind of vent, and they believed me,
Oh, that's good.
But so yeah, I've had a paranormal experience when I was, before the age of 5, and I've had a few scary things happen to me in my life. So I've always wanted to, and that's why I write about it, because I want to tell the stories. When I was a kid, I was told don't talk about it or your imagination or whatever. But now that I'm an adult, I want to share the stories. I want to write about it. I want everybody else to talk about it too.
I love that because, again, you kind of take away the mystique of it, right? Because there are thousands of stories out there that people aren't willing to tell.
Right.
And tell me if this has ever happened to you. I don't know if you work from home or where you work, but, people at work know I'm into the paranormal. I don't hide it,
Yeah.
Does anyone come up to you and go, "Jacki, come here. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think my house is haunted. How can I tell it's haunted?" You get anything like that?
People come up to me and say that, not necessarily at work. I'm a real estate agent, so not a lot
Okay.
of realtors really
Oh,
are into that kind of stuff. But I have people message me all the time and they're like, hey, this happened to me. What should I do? What can I do? And I'm always there to listen and I'm always there to help. There's a solution. If somebody needs, like a paranormal team to come into their house and they want to get further investigation on what might be going on, or if someone might need a spiritual advisor, I'm kind of that person that knows those kind of people that can give you contact information. So,
yeah. I love that. So, boy, you just opened a flurry of questions for me, Jackie. Thank you very
oh,
much. Number one,
okay.
Spoon River Paranormal. Let's talk about that. What inspired you to do this, and what is it all about? Like, by the way, people, all the links and stuff will be the Jackie's sites and her Instagram, but she's amazing. We talked to her offline. She'll drive around with her car and she'll kind of try to find some things and talk about some things. And I always get scared. I'm like, Jackie, look out! Just kidding. I just don't want Jackie to get into a car accident. None of us do, obviously. But
It was the
anyway,
drones. We were looking for the drones last time. We actually saw one, and
absolutely,
it was the
yeah.
size of a car. It was the size of a car. So that's why we were driving around like looking for it, because it actually just zoomed really fast. We couldn't catch up with it in the truck. So that's how fast it was going. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. So with Spoon River Paranormal, getting back to that, so what is it about? Like, what inspired you to do this, other than your love of the paranormal?
Well, where I'm originally from, in the Spoon River country, has a lot of really interesting and spooky paranormal stories.
Yeah,
And I have, like, me, myself, my people I grew up with, people in my family, other locals, we've heard these stories, we've talked about these stories, but not everybody else has heard these stories. So I really
hmm,
wanted to start my website, and that's how it started out. It started out as like a
yeah,
Facebook page to connect people who
yeah,
have had certain paranormal instances in a location. And since we're
sure,
kind of a small area, I wanted people to be able to talk to each other about it and say, oh my gosh, I went to school at the St. David School and I know it was haunted. And then someone from a class maybe 10 years prior was like, hey, I was at that school too, and it was haunted when I was there.
yeah.
So, I mean, I like to connect people through paranormal stories, and then they can kind of validate each other and back each other up, like, that place really is haunted because I had this experience here. And that just kind of started with my small area. And I wrote my book about it, Spoon River Paranormal, because I wanted to document everybody's stories. I got a lot of stories emailed to me, I got a lot of stories in the comments, and I wanted to put all of that into a book so people could read about it. And I'm writing another book right now, and I'm venturing out of Illinois. So,
Nice, nice. Well, I'll definitely have to check that out and everything, because that would be an amazing read, being that we're Midwestern
yeah,
and we're
thank
kind of next to each other, even though we have a border battle. You're okay. You're one of my spooky friends now, so you're okay.
yes,
You're
yes, thank you.
anyway. So let's get back to being a real estate agent.
Oh,
Have you ever walked in a house, Jackie, and went like something seems off about this house, and the people are walking around, and you're like, do I tell them? Do I not tell them? Like,
I normally don't
um,
tell them. I don't tell them.
okay, all right,
Just because not everybody believes in that kind of stuff. Like, we have people that come onto our pages or that, listen to our podcasts and things, and they're there because they kind of believe or they're interested or more curious. But as when it comes to like the general public, you never know what somebody's
yeah,
stance is on that. So I don't
right,
really want to bring it up. And I'm glad that you asked that question. Like, can I ever feel anything? Because
hmm,
I have abilities, like I can read people, but I don't think I'm a medium because I cannot
mm,
see dead people. I cannot hear the dead people. I can't talk to the dead people. But if there is a spirit presence, I can feel it. So I don't know if
oh,
that's like a type of a medium or whatever. I can't communicate, but I can feel it for sure.
yeah. So that, like I said, you hit a flurry of questions for me, Jackie. Ha- have you ever anyway, this is the kitchen, and I think you like it's a spacious kitchen. I'm doing my play acting. Tell me how I'm doing as a real estate agent, by the way. Here's the kitchen. I think you'll like a lot of space. You can put it, and then go around the door. Go around. I don't know. Go around the door with a adjoining, dining room. And there's like someone standing there, and you're the only one who can see them. And the people who come with you, the prospective buyers, are like, "Oh, this looks really nice," and you're like, "You don't." You know what I
like
mean?
somebody died here. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah. Or maybe sees something. Maybe sees something when you come around the corner to the dining room or living room, and go.
And I think a lot of most houses do have something that happened in them. My grandpa passed away at home in hospice in his house, and I'm sure that the people that bought the house don't know that. So the house I'm living in now, currently somebody passed away in. It's not haunted by people, but we do have a ghost cat.
Ooh, I love it.
I've seen it. My daughter has seen it. It's like a kind of like one of those blackish gray tiger striped cats that are fluffy. It's got like the fluffy fur. And when I first moved into this house, I would hear the bell that's on its collar. So
that's cool.
Is that mediumship? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I had a gentleman on. His name is Rob Goutreau. He is a pet psychic, and he deals with people who have lost their pets. They reach out to him, and he talked about pets, and pets can be ghosts too. And he talks about being still he's lost a lot of dogs, but he still feels like a dog jumping on the bed and being next to him like it used to do. And I thought that was just fat because I never heard anything like that. To be honest with you, I've heard normal, just people psychics, I guess. But he does people and pets, and he says, yeah, pets can be ghosts too. So that's really interesting. I love that.
Does he talk to live animals, by the way? Like, can he communicate with live animals?
Yes and no. One of the things he does, some residents, if it's in his area, but typically it's people reaching out to him who have lost a beloved pet, over like Zoom or something, because he can't be everywhere all the time.
Losing
and they talk to him about, I don't know, losing like, Billy the dog, so Billy the dog, he just passed. He was a great dog and stuff, and we wanted to know Billy's okay. And then he'll be like, he can kind of get in touch with that world and be like, okay, and he'll tell them like Billy died of this, and they're like, how'd you know that, and stuff like that. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. So yeah, Ghost Cat, I love it.
Yes.
Have you, in the state of Illinois, like other states, I think New Jersey, New York, you have to tell the people that this house is haunted. You have to say, yes, this house has been deemed haunted. You have to say that to people if you do that.
No.
No,
we don't have to tell people if it's haunted. It's kind of like one of those things. What's it called? Like if something taboo happened in a place, like you don't have to disclose it.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And really quick, I've said this a million times, I almost bought the Amityville Horror House.
That would have been amazing, though, right?
I know, but here's the thing, and people are like, not again, John. We've heard this story a million times. I'll be really quick with it, Jackie. So when I was talking to the real estate agent, I was going to fly down there and take a look at it, because it's an absolutely gorgeous house, Jackie. Just gorgeous. Anyway, so I'm flying there, and she goes, all right, is this anything with the paranormal? And I'm like, you got me. Yes, I want to buy it because it's haunted. And this lady had been in real estate for like 35 years. And she's like, sweetie, it's not haunted. It's never been haunted. I've been around this house. The Fale family were a bunch of druggies, and they were a terrible people. Yes, there were murders in it. And yes, there, you guys know that. But she said, no, she goes, you want haunted houses? I got haunted houses. I can tell you where they are. You can go to that. But she said, sweetie, it is not haunted. Trust me. There's been people in there for years. No one said anything. And she said, I get it. People might say that the ghost was attached to the family or whatever. But if you start reading things more and more about the Amityville Horror House, you find out it was all a scam. Unfortunately, but I still wanted to buy it just for the heck of it, because I thought, oh, it's so beautiful. And then, no, everything got kiboshed because they wanted
So do you believe what that realtor said? You know, do you really believe?
I absolutely do, because I actually did I called a couple of the former owners too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they were like, no. And I go, look, you can tell me I'm totally into paranormal. I'm not gonna put your story. And they're like, no, absolutely not. And they were super nice, and they were like, yeah, really, you know what they hated the most, Jackie, was that people would come on their lawn. Like they said, it used to scare their children. Like their little girl would like look out her window, and there'd be some guy standing on the lawn taking pictures of the house, or paranormal investigators kind of going around the house. And they said, John, that was the most annoying thing. We
I
absolutely
can see
hated it.
that. I mean,
And
sometimes there's a line that you can cross, like of being respectful or not, especially in a place that's,
yeah,
famously haunted that people
yeah,
happen to live in. I wrote
yes,
about the St. David School in my book, Spoon River Paranormal, and somebody actually lives there as a house now. And they, sometimes they do have people that pull up and take pictures.
yeah.
So,
So, and the thing about that too is they have changed the address, which is really weird. It used to be, I can't remember, like Ocean something or whatever lake or whatever they had, but they had to change it.
113 Ocean Drive or something like that.
Yeah, they changed that. But yeah, I believed her because number one, she is like, she would tell me it's haunted. If she wanted to sell the house, she should tell me it's haunted. You know what
Right,
I'm saying? Now,
right.
I've talked to mediums and paranormal investigators, numerous of them, and pretty much all of them agree that it could have been something that was tied to a certain family member. And when the family member left, the spirit went with them. But no, there's been nothing. And, again, I get it. There's a lot of people, well, they could be lying or they could be hiding stuff. Or they could be... But at the end of the day, I don't know. I think it's up to you. And I think the only way you're going to find out is by the house. By the way, the house just sold for, it was selling for like 1.5 mil at one time, and then they lowered it. So it's, in other words, if you're going to really buy this, the time I wanted to buy it, it was at about 400,000, just because the people were like, the guy got a job, and he's like, we were talking, and he's like, oh, we haven't done any renovation, we haven't done anything to the house, kind of thing. He's like, I
Yeah.
get it, there's a lot of work you guys got to do. He was super nice about it, very, very nice, generous couple, and I talked to them extensively, and they're like, nope, nothing, zip. And I'm like, really? And again, like I said, I told them, you can tell me. In fact, that would help me to buy your house. And they were like, nope, I'm sorry.
Take on it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that Ronald DeFeo was very troubled, whether he was on drugs or not, whatever was going on. He was obviously troubled if he killed his whole family. But I also think the next people that moved in, the Lutz family, George Lutz was into some stuff. He was into some dark things.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of things that people. Oh my God, my camera just moved.
Whoa!
Okay, I'm moving it back. But no, George was into some dark things. So I think that he probably, whatever kind of energy was left over in that house, that he might have harnessed it or perpetuated it more for his own personal gain. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with you on that, Jackie. That, again, like people have said, that the people moved in, the energy attracted or enhanced or magnified, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And then when they left,
down. There's people that have like gotten on bad kind of drugs in my town, right? I've came across a few of them that are demonically possessed, and they like opened up a gateway by doing those kind of drugs to kind of invite that kind of stuff in. And it's like when you're in a low vibrational state, when you're in negative energy state, that's why I tell people, do not ever go on a paranormal investigation or anything like that. When you're in a low vibrational state, anger, sadness, depression, even anxiety, that can cause you to have a spirit attachment. And that's the last thing you want to do is bring something home. Believe me, I know, I've been there. And this happened to me when my daughter was young, and it didn't really terrorize me much because I don't really scare from that kind of stuff, but it terrorized my daughter. And that was the dangerous thing about it.
So what was that, a spirit, Jackie?
Yes.
What was it?
Yes. There was like this man, and he was like 7-8 foot tall, and he basically was like dwelling in her closet area, but there were During that time, drawers were opening and closing in our house, shelves flying off the wall. The dogs were barking at things that weren't there. My daughter had like one of those little books that makes sounds and like you can read along with it. It was underneath her bed. It just started going haywire and crazy. And then there was another toy under there that started going off. So like, and then we were all on heightened, alert and terrified of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? All this crazy shit. It was like a poltergeist all of a sudden,
Right.
So I actually had to have shaman come in and clear the energy of that house and get rid of it. But it was something.
So as long as we're talking, before we get to the subject, just a couple of quick things. What is the scariest thing that happened to you where you were just like, yeah, this kind of is what I thought it is, or kind of cements my belief in the paranormal?
The scariest thing was probably what I was just talking about when it was messing with my daughter. You can mess with me all you want, but leave the children alone. My daughter's an adult now, but that's something that she'll never forget. And then being from a small town, it's like you can't go to school and tell anyone about it, or everyone is going to think you're weird. So
yeah.
And being a mom, you can't really tell anyone about it because people think you're weird, but everyone knows whatever.
Yeah, and that sucks. That really sucks because you want to get it out and you want to talk about it and see because there's so many people who have come up to me and said, John, I think my house is haunted. John, I think, I had a Ouija board situation where a couple of my employees went to a cemetery with a Ouija board. These were kids, teenage kids. We were once teenagers, right, Jackie, and doing dumb stuff. And they went to a cemetery. They saw something, heard something, a shadow figure, booked it out of there, forgot to close the Ouija board. And guess what happened? That followed them home. And the funny thing about it was, well, it isn't really that funny. Actually, two interesting things. Number one, the mom came to my work, and I thought she was going to be like, John, you're a dickhead, for making my dog, really chew me out. Like you would probably chew me out if, I was telling your daughter something. She comes home and tells you, be like, what's up with that guy? You know what I mean? Maybe you had said it a little differently. But anyway, she came to me, and to my surprise, she was like, John, how can you help us? It's like, what do we need to do? Please tell me what to do. And I was lucky to get her that I know a ton of paranormal investigators, mediums and stuff. And now including you, that I contacted and said, hey, could you help her? And they reached out. They were just, I've met nothing but fantastic people on my podcast, and they helped her out. But here's the funny thing. When I had to go back and do what the medium told me to do, they had ran over the Ouija board while they're mowing the lawn. Yeah. Destroyed it. So I had to call the medium, this really nice lady, Sarah. Sarah, it's not there anymore. She goes, oh, someone took it? I'm like, no, it's destroyed. And she's like, oh, no. She goes, okay, John, run to the nearest. What do you got? She goes, Walmart, whatever. Run to the nearest. Go get a Ouija board. Bring it back. I will walk you through this. And she, we put her on speaker and we walked through it. And then luckily the spirits went away and the shadow figures went away from this daughter and their mom's home. And, they were eternally grateful, but they learned a valuable lesson that I talk about in this podcast a million times, which you just said. You just don't mess with things you don't know, right? Just be professional about it. Be in the right mood, be in the right frame of mind. Don't do something like, I'm pissed at my girlfriend, so I'm gonna put a demon on her. Maybe something more constructive, like maybe get therapy. I don't know, right?
Buy her some flowers. Don't go straight to the demon.
Yeah. Like, let's not go to the demon first. I'm sure there's a stalking demon out there. We don't want to do that. Let's right. Let's figure this out. Maybe, like you said, buy her some flowers and a nice little card, and not get a stalking demon after her or something like that. But anyway, I think that's really interesting. Now, before we get started, we're going to talk about a town in Illinois that's super haunted. But I want to talk about your town. What's in your town that you think, if people were in there, that they should check out, that you think is kind of frightening? You talked about the drone, which I think is crazy. Well, that's a whole different subject. But how about your town? What do you think is haunted?
Okay, so I live in Peoria now, which isn't very far from Spoon River Country. It's not very far from Fulton County. I'm in Peoria County now. But Peoria has Springdale Cemetery, and it is famously haunted. There is this family plot that they call the Witch's Circle, and it has a big tree in it. Unfortunately, a lot of people have went and taken their lives at the tree, which is
No.
horrible. But before that, it was always said to be really haunted by this witch. And I don't know if there's any negative energy, and that's why people have went and done that there, but you can tell which grave is the witch's. And I've been meaning to go to Springdale and record a video of this because the witch's grave is sunken in. And it's been there since a long time, over 100 years. There's no reason why it should be sunken in like that. Springdale also has a legend of a vampire, and he was one of the people that helped found Peoria. So yeah, and he had something to do with like the Civil War. I'm not sure which side he was on, but he was like involved in that somehow. And somehow he's got the legend of he's a vampire, and he still stalks Springdale Cemetery. Peoria is a river town. We've got a lot of limescale deposits and, the rushing water and stuff like that itself. So.
Wow. So cool little town. And there are plenty of towns around here. And maybe someday I'll come down there. We'll do an investigation. You come up here. We'll do an investigation. One of the things I wanted to check out is, we have two of the biggest serial killers. You guys have some pretty good serial killers too. But, we have, Gacy and Dahmer, not Gacy, excuse me. I'm trying to blank. Ted Geen, thank you. What is the Gacy?
Yes.
That's your guys. John Wayne Gacy. Anyway, so there's this area about 2 hours away from me called Plainfield, Wisconsin, small town where Geen lived. The area where his house was, Jacki, is now a barren field, just totally barren, because they burned down the house mysteriously. That's because someone wanted to turn it into a museum of all things, and I think the town was like, nah, we're gonna burn it down. But no one has proved who has burned it down yet. Anyway, on this patch of land where his home used to be, paranormal investigators have said that when you go on there, they feel very dread, sadness, like someone's watching them. Some have said they've gotten angry at their teammates, like just started yelling at them, just been really pissed. Why I would want to bring a female along, not that I know that sounds weird and creepy, sorry about that, is because women who are on there feel like they're being, like their hair's been pulled, they feel like someone's grabbed their arm, they feel very like, like almost they have to take a long bath after getting off of that place. It just feels weird. Yeah, it's just weird. And it's just a plain, you can go look on Google Maps. It's just a plain area. It's about 2 hours away from me. One of these days, I'm going to head out there and just kind of do if I do this by myself, I've told a number of people, probably including you, like I'm going this and I'm going to FaceTime everybody and I'm just going to be like, okay, everybody, I'm really scared.
I'm not that interested to see what you get. It's a really small town too. I mean, he might have some living descendants there still,
Yeah, it's creepy as hell. And I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. So let's talk about, let me give you a little teaser, Jackie.
Okay.
The Illinois River town of Alton is considered one of America's most haunted small towns. It has been featured on several television shows, investigated by several paranormal investigators. Recently, check this out, Alton has landed on the list of top 10 ghostly towns to tour by Travel. What do you think? Pretty interesting, huh?
It is. And I believe it because of, I've been to Alton and they do have a lot of limestone and mineral deposits. Some of the areas overlooking the river are like a giant cliff of limestone, Yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure that the whole entire town's bedrock is limestone. So,
absolutely.
Interesting. And I don't know what makes limestone so conducive, but it seems like wherever there are more limestone deposits, there's more paranormal activity.
Yes. So let's talk about the history, shall we? So the history of Alton. In 1673, French missionary Father Jacques Muckead'my, there's my French, it's horrible, I'm sorry, was exploring the Mississippi when high up on the bluffs, he saw a cliff painting that struck terror in his heart. It was among the largest Native American paintings found in North America at that time, which we come to know as the Pisa bird. So go look this up. Excuse me, I will put this on all my social medias. It is this huge bird, and it's like a thunderbird, basically. Basically, the legend was that it was this massive beast plucked humans from the river and devoured them in its bone-filled lair high above the shore. So basically, this huge bird comes down, picks you up, eats you, and takes you back to its lair, eats you, and yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
it's not really that far-fetched. If there was a giant bird, I've seen a bald eagle carry off a house cat. My uncle had an owl take his chihuahua. I mean, so if the bird was that big, it could have taken a human. And there's actually a Thunderbird story. I'm not sure what town in Illinois this was, but there was a little boy back in the 70s that was picked up in his backyard by this giant bird. And then he dropped, but they say that he had red hair and it went from red to white overnight because he was so scared.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You've heard that one?
So who wouldn't be, right? Yeah, I've seen like eagles. You know, if you live here in the Midwest, it's a good chance you're going to see an eagle. And I saw this eagle like over this deer carcass, and it like looked at me and went, "Yeah, you want some of this?" I went, "No, I don't."
They can be intimidating and scary. And have you seen their beaks? I mean, I'm going to be bit by one.
Yeah, the eagle was ready to throw down with me. I'm like, "Oh, hey, whoa.
Yeah.
Take it easy, eagle." So anyway, Marquette wrote in his journal, while skirting some rocks, which by their height and length inspired awe, we saw upon one of them the two painted monsters, which at first made us afraid, and upon which the boldest savages dare not long rest their eyes. It was beneath this ominous image that early settlers, this is hilarious. So let me back up. So there's this huge ominous image of this bird that looks like it could eat you for breakfast, okay? So what did people do? Illinois people, come on, man. They decided to build a city which for a moment was the largest settlement in Illinois, which was on one of the busiest ports on the Mississippi. So people saw this. Let me back up, Jackie. So we're settlers, right? Hey, great, we're starting a new life and everything. We look up, see this ominous bird that could eat us, and we go, this is a good place for a town.
Might as well get some big omelets.
Right away. So anyway, it was founded in the competing town of Grafton. I don't know where Grafton is, 15 miles away upriver, but it is built on top of porous limestone bluffs, which we just talked about, filled with caves and natural water sources. Some believe that the energy from the past is contained in those things, returning like a recording to haunt the present. This is a gentleman, his name is Taylor. He's one of the authors of the book about haunted Illinois, Alton, Illinois.
Yes, Troy Taylor. Actually, he has an oddities museum now, so I've heard. I need to go there.
Nice.
And I think it might be in Alton. I'll have to look that up, but yes.
Yeah, I think it's in Alton too. I believe it's in Alton too. I think it's in the book. I've not read the book. I would love to read the book. I got a lot of book reading to do, I think. I got to read yours too. The British have a name for this, the stone tape theory. I've never heard of this. Jackie, explain what this is, and you can tell me if you've heard of it.
Okay.
Which is how they explain the inordinate number of hauntings in the castles. Is a bit of a pseudoscience, or at least something we don't understand yet. But events from the past do seem to sometimes leave an impression on a place and repeat themselves like an old film loop, running over and over again until they eventually fade away. So this is a residual haunting they're
I
talking
was just
about.
getting ready to say that's also called a
Oh,
residual haunting. And
correct.
they say that wood can also record things like that. I don't know why or what, but we use quartz in our computers. It's a stone, so I don't know if limestone has some sort of special property that we don't really know of yet. But I do believe that certain events are recorded and they're played back and they're absorbed into the atmosphere somehow, if that makes sense. Like through the limestone or through the wood, it gets absorbed and eventually it'll play itself back like a movie. And it doesn't necessarily mean the place is haunted because it's not conscious and it doesn't know it's happening. It's kind of like watching a video on TikTok. When you see me talking, I don't really know that you're watching me or that, I'm playing to you as a specific audience. And I feel like in those kind of hauntings, they're not intelligent. They don't know that you can see them and they weren't aware of it at the time it was recorded. So
Mm-hmm. So which is more scarier, Jackie? Waking up every morning at 3 a.m. and seeing a little boy with a disfigured face at the foot of your bed, or just having, like you were talking about, an intelligent haunting, which Spooky Friends, just to go over really quick, is something that manifests itself where they can actually communicate with you, whether it be like opening drawers, slamming cabinets, in a closet, maybe opening the closet door and coming out. Which is more scary? What would be
an
more scary?
intelligent haunting, hands down, because a lot of the
Okay.
times if they are doing those things, if like opening drawers or whatever, and they're doing those things to try to scare you, more than likely they're feeding off of your energy and it gives them strength and it gives them more strength to manifest to those kind of things. My camera just moved again. And I just told you my house wasn't haunted.
Great, Jackie. I got this.
It's me. Yeah, no, intelligent hauntings can make your life hell, basically, to feed
Yeah,
themselves.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So one of the things, there are a ton of haunted places. My spooky friends will have to do individual episodes on it, and maybe Jackie would be kind enough to come back on, and
Yeah.
we would go into more depth to do this. But here they are, and I'm going to talk about 3 of them because I'm like, man, there's a lot. So you could go on ghost tours. They're offered, I believe not now, obviously, it's a little too close. A little too cold. So here are the places in Alton, Illinois, and I'm not kidding you. This is a full night, maybe a day. So the first Unitarian church that's haunted. It's one of the former pastors is believed to haunt the historic church. I will talk about that. Milton School. That is haunted. That is a schoolgirl said to have haunted the building after she was found dead in the locker room. So I'll take a little more of that. A Confederate prison. I'll kind of talk about this a little bit. The old Alton prison housed thousands of Confederate soldiers during the Civil War, and more than 1,400 died due to smallpox outbreaks. So kind of get why that's haunted. An art center, the Jacoby Art Center. The building is said to be haunted since the basement is used, get this, folks, to be a mortuary. That's super weird. An art center and a mortuary. Okay. All right. Malls. Me and Jackie probably you went to malls when we were younger, but they are dead, unfortunately. But the Mineral Springs Mall, the former hotel and spa, is filled with tragedy. Murders, suicides, as well as natural and accidental deaths. The Ryder Building, a mysterious person is said to be dragging chairs and tables on the first floor of the restaurant. Alton City Cemetery, which I'll talk a little bit about. You can take a cemetery tour and walk inside an empty crypt. So they can take you there, which I think is pretty cool.
That is cool.
And then there is the Confederate Cemetery and Memorial. The remains of 1,400, like I said, Confederate soldiers are buried here in one of the northernmost monuments to the Confederate soldier. And another monument, Eli Lovejoy Monument. This monument is dedicated to the man who was murdered by a pro-slavery mob in 1837. And I'm not done, folks. There's a Pisa Masonic Lodge. The spirit of a Confederate soldier haunted the basement and is believed to have been a former fellow Mason who died in the nearby prison. You can learn about all these. There's Alton, there's a bunch of tours and stuff I believe you can take, which I will take one of these days. So that's a lot, Jackie.
Yeah, it is a lot. That is a lot.
That's crazy. But I didn't get to the biggest one, which most people would know, and I have to do a separate episode on this. That is the McPike Mansion. I'm just gonna do the basics on this because I kind of want to cover a couple other things, and I'd love to have Jackie here for 2 or 3 hours, but she has a life too. The original owner of the mansion was Henry Guest. The McPike family owned 15 acres of land, which they called Mount Lookout Park. Okay. The house has not been occupied since the 19. Okay. However, but before weathers and vandals caused extensive damage to the structures, come on, guys. It was a regal addition to the Illinois town of Alton. Today, McPike Mansion is owned by Sharon and George Lutz, who have been trying to nurture this great house back to its regal state. When they purchased the house, they had no idea it was haunted. I think that's hilarious. So these people are still there, and they're still, but they had no idea it was haunted. None at all when they bought it. So there you
Not
go.
everybody's into this kind of stuff,
I know, I guess. But people have seen orbs, balls of light, and even figures of people in backgrounds of pictures taken in the mansion. Some claim the haunts date back to the property before the mansion was built on Native American burial grounds.
Yeah.
So there's Native American ghosts, residue. Also, it was an underground railroad stop, which in Illinois and Wisconsin, fascinating enough. I did the Mirror Mansion, the Haunted Mirror Mansion, my last episode. That was also for the Underground Railroad. So people, if you don't know and love your history like I do, and I think Jackie does, the Underground Railroad was for slaves getting across the border to Canada to be free, or to help slaves, sometimes be in certain of the non-abolitionist states where slavery was not permitted, to kind of like live there, kind of help out. But typically, most people would go into Canada. The slaves would go to Canada, and this was a nice tunnel system that helped them. Very brave people, because they were putting their lives on the line. If they were caught doing this, they would be killed immediately.
Yes.
I
used to live in Lewistown, which is where a lot of the stories in my book come from. There was underground tunnels there that were also part of the Underground Railroad. And some of those tunnels are still under the town. A lot of them are closed off, but they're there.
Yeah. This is amazing. I'd love to check that out. Now, there's also in this house, like I said, we could do a whole episode on this. Mysterious stories include servants of the building are still there in this house. Cook in the kitchen? Hey, as long as you're cooking and making dinner. Great.
I wish somebody would come make me dinner like a ghost.
Hey!
That'd be nice.
Hey, ghost. Come to Jackie and I's house and make us a nice dinner. Anyway, and the strange death of a woman in a bathtub. I love that. I'll have to cover this. Death of a woman in a bathtub. I don't know how it could be a strange death, but okay. Some even believe Eleanor and Henry McPike will roam the corridors of the former home. So I've talked to paranormal investigators last season who have investigated this house.
Me too.
They have gotten many EVPs, some evidence, but it says as soon as you walk into this place that the owners really don't like a lot of investigation, so you have to kind of like beg them and plead with them. But according to my paranormal investigators who have investigated the house, they're nice people.
Yeah, as with anywhere, you just have to be respectful, and I think that that's where, there can be a fine line, because some people will go in and maybe not be as respectful as the next. So, I mean, we're all in this together, especially the free places that you can go. A lot of people don't think, that they have to be respectful just because it might be a public place that you can go to for free, but you should still be,
Absolutely. Yeah, I hate that with yelling at the ghost. Hey, come out! Come on. If you were, it's like being a regular person. If I yelled at you, Jackie, hey, come here, Jackie, you'd be like, hey, what the hell, John?
And no vandalizing and no littering. Those are the big two, I know. People don't realize that they're doing, but, even throwing a cigarette butt down is littering.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So this one's a little spooky. This one, the First Unitarian Church, I got to do an episode on this one too. The first Unitarian church was built in the 1830s. It was first called St. Matthew's Catholic Church. 20 years later, it burned to the ground. I don't know why. I didn't get into it, but, back in that time, fires started like every 5 seconds. There were no sprinkler systems or nothing.
Right.
The Unitarian Society purchased the land and rebuilt a church for itself. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I got to get conspiracy theaters. My conspiracy theories. I love conspiracy theories, by the way. All right. Talk about that. So another fire occurred in 1901, burning the church down to its foundation again, Jackie. So the church stands now, rebuilt in 1905. So this is still a pretty old church. So this reverend, his name was Philip Mercer, became a well-respected preacher. Now check this out. I don't know what you were doing at 18, but I sure was not doing this. He became a preacher at 18.
He was very devoted to his faith then.
He moved here from England, and he had a way of speaking in his sermons that made people from all over come to hear him preach. Interesting, right?
That is interesting.
And like 18, you move to Illinois?
And then he became famous by the sounds of it. Yeah. It was his destiny.
I guess. So anyway, this is so weird. And, again, we don't know what it is, but Jackie and I will speculate. How's that sound? One night in November of 1934, he found himself ill. Okay, this is Philip Mercer, the Reverend Mercer, I'll call him. So he was shaking and he was unable to speak properly. Kind of sounds like he's having a stroke. He went to visit a friend, James McKinney. After a few days of not seeing Mercer, McKinney went to the church to check on him. Reverend Mercer, was found hanging in the doorway of the minister's study. Now, let's speculate here. What do you think?
Somebody was jealous of him. That's kind of like where I'm going. I don't think if he was a man of faith like that, plus he's gained some sort of fame and momentum, for his speeches, why would he do something like that?
Right. And that he wasn't able to speak and he was shaking. That could be a number of things.
He could have been poisoned, Could
have been poisoned. Ooh, I like that.
That's what they used to do back in the day. So.
So, since the Reverend's death, there have been reports of voices and shadowy figures coming from the basement of the church. The piano seems to play itself sometimes, and doors open and close with no explanation. So
he's pissed about his death.
Right. That's what I thought. That's case solved. That's what I thought, Jackie. Like he's pissed. Like something happened. He was murdered. But
I'm getting.
Yeah, I would do a full episode on that because that's too crazy, right? Like, why? What's going on? This one I definitely have to do. I've never heard of this. And tell me if you've heard of this, Jackie. There is a place in Alton down the Mississippi called Smallpox Island. Does that ring a bell at all?
No, tell me about it.
Okay. This site is where Confederate soldiers who died from smallpox were originally buried. So they just took the 1,400 smallpox soldiers and they put them over this.
Like, did they put them in a mass grave together?
Must have put them in a mass grave is my explanation. After the Civil War, so they renamed the island to a much better friendly name, Sunflower Island. So you're not with your kid going down the Mississippi. Look, it's Smallpox Island. That kind of sounds bad, right?
Nobody wants to go to Smallpox Island.
Yeah, come on, honey. We're gonna have a picnic. Let's have a picnic on Smallpox Island.
No.
So it's after the Civil War, they cleared this local steer cleared of Sunflower Island, smallpox, where the prisoners with smallpox had been sent. Some feared that smallpox lingered, while others feared restless spirits. So, in 1874, a dike built for flood control caused the shore of Sunflower Island to erode. Check this out. Washing some of the graves away, and in 1935, a new lock and dam was built using some of the island's soil. So it washed.
With this.
This is, yeah. So on July 22nd, 1935, an Alton Telegraph reporter took a rowboat to the island, okay, to investigate accounts of human bones. So people said during evacuation work for the dam, they found human bones. The following passage, I love this. We could never put this in the papers today. Well, maybe we could. Ran the next day. So the following this is a passage of the next day in the story entitled Island Yields Skeletons of Prison Dead.
Oh my.
That is the title of the story in the Alton Telegraph, 1935. This is what it said. This is something out of a horror movie, by the way.
Yeah.
I have to get my voice. I have to get my voice ready.
I have seen skeletons like come up to the surface before from where I'm from. And one time it was at a cemetery that wasn't very well taken care of. And another time it was in the field where, it used to be a Native American village, which is, horrible to find bones like that. And I can see why they would be pissed.
Yeah. So tying up to the roots of a maple tree. This is just what he did, I guess, and why he said that. But the reporter stood up, the land just above his head. He was a quarter mile west of Clark Highway, the railroad bridge between, and then he saw, where he put his boat. I don't know why he put that in the story. But anyway, he saw 2 half skulls lay on the surface. More were entangled in the roots of a maple tree. So there were these skulls just sitting there. There was also these bones that the maple tree had wrapped itself around these skeletons. So they were inside the tree.
That sounds like something
part of the
horror movie.
Right?
Yeah.
And now that I'm chicken shit. I'll just admit it. You're much braver than me, Jackie. I can guess. As he dug into the bank, he exposed more and more bones. In recalling the event, he feels that the bones extended to the level below his knees. The initial bones in the roots of the maple about shoulder height. So these trees have just taken up the bones and they grew in with the trees. The reporter's description would indicate that the bones were complete skeletons placed together. There was no evidence of caskets. A flagstone was found nearby that may have been used at one time as a marker. So think about that. They just threw them in a giant grave. The trees basically sucked up the bones.
See a picture of that tree, though. Could you imagine, just based on the description, could you imagine what that must have looked like? I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
And this part of the Mississippi must be haunted. If it isn't, I don't know what to tell you. So once they completed the dam, it raised the water level, submerging most of what remained of the island. An untold number of disturbed Confederate graves lay beneath the murky Mississippi at Alton. So, and they're not, and you say to yourself, that sucks. Aren't they going to go and dig this up? Nope. It would take, I was looking at some things about this, and like I said, I'm going to do an episode on this. I was looking at how they would have to dredge, and it's too expensive. Like, no, there's nobody going to pay to dredge these, So all these
private donor to do something like that.
Correct. So someone would have to go down with millions of dollars, because that's how much it would cost to dredge all this stuff and get all these bones put together and put this in the proper way. So I'm like, Jackie, are you on the same page with me that part of the Mississippi must hella haunted? Just body,
yes,
right?
So, and not only that, because of that, but there were also steamboat disasters that happened down there that killed a lot of people. Steamboats were very dangerous back in the day, and they were constantly exploding and killing people. And there was a really bad steamboat accident, and I don't think it was the Confederate soldiers. I think it was on the opposite side, like they were all being shipped home. It was in that war. I just can't remember right off the top of my head which side it was, but they were all being shipped home after the war, and the ship exploded and they all died and they never made it home.
You are correct. When I was researching that, it was, believe it or not, the worst disaster, even worse than the Titanic. That's how many people died.
Well, and they had the ship
And,
overcrowded. I mean, it was
correct.
overcrowded by hundreds of people too, so
Correct.
it was bad.
Yeah, and they didn't have, like, boilers and stuff were extremely temperamental. Like, you had to, not to bore people here, but just really quickly, you had to really keep an eye on it. Like, if you, like, looked away, it's like having a little kid when your daughter was young. You know, if you look away, you know she's gonna grab something, and you're gonna be like, "Oh crap!" You know, like she's trying to pull something's gonna hit her in the head. Or with my kids, it was when I was at water parks, and I'd just look away for a second, and they would slip and go under the water.
In the water without their floaties or something.
Yeah. Then you would have to be like, yeah, it'd be ridiculous, you know. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing here, right? You were like, I'm grabbing a beer and a smoke. I mean, whatever. You're screwed. Yeah, it's terrible. So
well,
all
the ships
these,
were wooden. The ships were wooden, so if they exploded, you know, there's no putting that fire out, really.
no, absolutely not. And remember, it's steam too. So if you weren't killed by the explosion, you wish you were, because the steam, let's say, if you've ever made spaghetti at home, which we all have, right? And you know how sometimes you're making spaghetti and the water's boiling and you accidentally maybe get a little bit of the water droplet on you or something, you're like, oh, shit, right? You know what I mean? And that's just a water droplet. Imagine dumping that on your head. I mean, no thanks. No thank you. So I always have to ask at the end of every episode, and I think this is probably going to be an easy answer. Is Alton, Illinois haunted, Jackie?
Yes.
Yes!
100%.
Double yes!
Oh, here's my thing. So, and Troy Taylor is a writer that he's from there. He's written a lot of books and stories about Alton, which you had mentioned earlier. And I would definitely recommend that anyone interested in how haunted Alton is, go check out one of his books.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to have to revisit it on Galena, Illinois, which Galena, Illinois, for all you people out there, is very touristy. It is very, like, you know, oh, look at the Amish, you know, rugs and.
Is that Starved Rock, the Starved Rock area?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. A lot of tourists.
And the weird thing about Galena, Illinois is it's stuck in time. Like, they haven't renovated really anything per se. So a lot of the buildings are from the original buildings, 1800. So you go in there and you walk downtown, you're like, what the heck? You know, this is like, hasn't anybody, but that's a good thing if you love history. You're like, stop tearing things down, right?
You want to know another town that's old like that is Jacksonville, Illinois. So I'm also, I also do things in the entertainment industry. I'm an actor. I've worked on movie sets and things. And the last movie set that I worked on was last spring, and we were filming in Jacksonville, Illinois. And there was this street. We were filming in a big Airbnb, which was haunted, by the way. One of the cast members woke up with giant claw marks on him. It was a thing. But this whole street is just giant mansions that are Airbnbs that most people can go stay at. But it's Jacksonville. They're all old, originally built mansions. You go driving around the town, and like all the buildings are still from the 1800s. They must have a policy where they, instead of tearing them down, they fix them up. So that was pretty. And if Galena is anything like that, then I would love to see Galena too.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was amazing, Jackie. I love it. I love all your stories. This was great.
Thank you so much.
So what do you have coming up for my spooky friends so they can check out?
Oh, spooky friends. So I have my original book that I wrote, Spoon River Paranormal, kind of about the creepy stuff that's happened where I'm originally from. Because like Alton, this is a very haunted area. Not only do we have ghost stories, but there are also cryptid stories where there have been Sasquatch sightings. There have been a lot of UFO things that have been reported. One time I was down in this little town called Liverpool, visiting a family member of mine, and I had walked inside, and my mom was outside with the neighbor. And just in that short period of time, a tic-tac-toe UFO, or a tic-tac-toe, a tic-tac, sorry, a tic-tac, like UFO flew over, and it was accompanied by 2 fighter jets. And the Illinois River is right there. So a lot of strange stuff happening. But I'm also in the middle of writing another book. I will be venturing outside of my comfort zone and outside of Illinois, and I'm doing haunted locations basically across America with some new ghost stories, hopefully, that everybody can enjoy. So
Nice.
let's connect.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you for going a little overtime with me. This was an amazing, I'd love to have you back on, talk about the MC Pike Mansion and some other things.
Yes.
You're so knowledgeable about these things.
So are you. So are you.
Yeah. And please check, like I said, when this episode drops, please check out all her sites, especially on Instagram, TikTok. Where else are you on? YouTube? Where else are you on?
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm on Threads now, but I'm not really sure. Like, it's new to me, so I think I've got my button where whenever I post on Instagram, it automatically goes to Threads. So,
cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I always ask my guests, just to make sure, can people get a hold of you if they maybe have some type of paranormal event going on or paranormal story to share?
Oh, yes, please. That is encouraged. I love to hear your stories. I love to share your stories, and I like to connect you with other people that may. I'm sorry, my dog is taking a drink in the background.
That's all right.
Connect you with other people that have also had paranormal experiences, because we're all in this together, And on my page, when people come and they start saying like hateful things and in the comments, just, with negativity, I delete that stuff. Because it's hindering other people from opening up about their experience. Absolutely. If they see somebody being hateful, they're like, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't want to get made fun of, or I don't want someone to say that I'm lying." So I delete that crap. It's not tolerated. I want to be a safe space for people to share their stories.
Yeah, I love that, Jackie. That is 100%. True that you got to get rid of the haters, because if you don't, I don't understand it. If you don't believe in it, that's okay. That's your choice. It's your choice. But there are people who have real issues, and whether it's paranormal or maybe they need some type of therapy or something, Jackie's here to help, and all my guests are here to help. Because at the end of the day, you just don't want to wake up every morning scared and feeling powerless. That's just no way to live a life. And, anything we can do to point you in the right direction, I'm sure Jackie would do. And, or at least if you just get it off your chest. It's like, hey, I was a little girl and I saw this ghost, and now I'm afraid of ghosts. And could you kind of help me get past it? Who knows? Maybe Jackie will be like, yeah, hey, I had the same story too. I can tell you about that. I saw the Native American person, and this is kind of my feelings. Oh, cool. So somebody relates to. So
I believe
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jackie. Like I said, I'd love to have you back on. There's so much other things we talk about, because Haunted Illinois is scary. And then, if you need any ideas for your book about Wisconsin,
I'd love to come up when you go to Ed Gaines. Let me know.
Yeah, we go in there. We scare the crap out of each other. Awesome. All right, thanks, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I love you. Take care.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.